Welcome back, everyone. This is another episode of GRIOT of the Diaspora, and I'm your host, Kyren Lacy. And this episode is going to be This Week in Black America. There have been a lot going on, and we have some updates to the Kyren Lacy case, and we need to send a condolences to D'Angelo's family since he recently passed away. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I'm trying to decide, do I want to talk about the serious stuff first or the stupid stuff first? Let's go light. Let's go light. So recently a video came out of Azealia Banks performing in Is Not Real, right? And it's not that I'm surprised because I don't expect anything from Azealia Banks, but it was the fact that, like, respectfully, everybody has whatever right to be on whatever side they feel that they want to be on. However, I really think it is disgusting that Azealia Banks finds herself on the side of misogyny, patriarchy, and anti-blackness every chance that she gets, to the point where people used to like praise her, thinking that she was just so like intellectual because she would talk about things. But I realized whenever I listened to her talk, she was only talking for herself. Like, she wasn't ever really for women in the industry. She was just necessary. She was more so just talking about how she wanted it better for herself, because in those same breaths she would always disrespect other black women. And I feel like she's one of those people who weaponize colorism, and who would weaponize colorism and do a lot of like dog whistling and do a lot of virtue signaling to try to get black women on her side, when in reality the black women that she would always try to get on her side are the very same black women that she would look at on any other day and look down on them.
I'm okay. You can't, if time is not proven, that you can't cancel Azealia Banks. Every time you cancel me, I get stronger. And when you cancel something, you make it punk. So in my eyes, people like this is the most, free PR that the Jews have ever gotten, and I love the Jews. And my love story with the Jews goes far back. So I'm kind of just like proud of all of my.
So I thought that was very weird when I saw these videos and photos of her performing in Is Not Real, because it was just like, if this is not a recession indicator, I really don't know what is. And tell me you're down bad without telling me you're down bad, right? And we're seeing a lot of people who now are delineating from being Black American, and we're seeing a lot of these different small minority groups delineating from being African, having African ancestry, being Black American, being Black. For whatever reason, this is a common thing, and I feel like a lot of Black people, particularly Black celebrities or public figures or has-beens, are using a lot of like alt right, far right, past conservatism to try to stay afloat in this economic downpour. And I'm noticing that artists like Azealia Banks and a few others have nothing else going for themselves other than to be anti-black for a bag. And it's kind of disgusting, because it's really like, it also shows how much you're not in solidarity with people from other classes, right? Because a lot of celebrities don't want to give up the lifestyle that they never really deserved in the first place. And they're so afraid of being impoverished to the point where they will put on booty shorts to fly all the way to Is Not Real and wave a flag just to protect some bag that they need solely to uphold a lifestyle of what? Classism, right? There's no reason for any black artist to be performing in Saudi Arabia and Is Not Real, right? There's really no reason other than you not having any money, you not having any clout, and you being okay with performing anti-blackness to make some money so that you're not left doing things that you consider poor people to be doing. But I digress.
I am Nail Egyptian, and I'm the owner of the Nail Egyptian Press On Collection, and I'm originally from Compton, California. I started doing nails in high school, but I started doing press on nails when I traveled to Ghana for the first time in 2013, which inspired me to make the Nail Egyptian Press On Collection. The style and design behind every nail set is inspired by the queens and goddesses of ancient Africa. I love when my customers tell me they feel inspired and empowered when they wear the nails, and it makes me feel happy that I'm able to connect with people in my community and make them feel beautiful.
Since we're in music, let's talk about Timbaland. Are we all cognizant of the fact that like Timbaland is just actively undoing his entire legacy? And I just want to say this. I let go of Timbaland when he sat in front of a camera to admit that he was also one of the grown men who had a adolescent crush on Aaliyah while he was a grown man, while watching her being preyed on by other grown men in the industry as well as his peers, right? Men whose phone numbers and contacts he had, who he's done songs with. He also was over there lusting over this young girl. So for me, Timbaland has always been out of the music legacy conversation, if I'm being honest. However, a few months ago, Timbaland, announced that he will be using AI artists for whatever music or albums that he's going to be working on. He signed a AI artist a few months ago, and people were in uproar about it, right? People were like, is this really happening? What are we talking about? For what? Right? And this is a video of his new AI artist. So one would look at this and be like, one, you could have found this in real life, right? It's not that hard to paint an Asian girl's hair and give her a couple of AAVE words to say, right? But I think there's something very insidious about using AI artists in music and then using non black AI artists to perform cultural appropriation. I'm honestly, it's really not even much to say. I don't even feel like I need to do a deep dive on this because it's really like similar to Azealia Banks. Everybody is drawing a line in the sand. I particularly feel like since Cat Williams and since Kendrick Lamar drew their line in the sand, everybody else is drawing a line in the sand as well. And people who are more committed to not just capitalism, but imperialism in all forms, if they are more committed to that because they can make some money, I think that we as consumers, as audiences, as content creators, as producers, as CEOs and founders, we should also be paying attention to the lines that people are drawing because look at what's happening to Starbucks. They are closing down a bunch of stores. They are really feeling the shift from black people and people of color no longer buying from them. I haven't bought anything from Starbucks since I've been back in the country, right? And obviously, millions of other people are doing the same thing. What I find really interesting though with this with Timbaland, right, is why, right? And then I'm even more curious about this AI artists in the music industry. I'm really curious how many black engineers are given the opportunity to even participate in this foolery, right? Because it would be one thing, it's one thing where this is already tomfoolery, right? However, it's another thing when you're still employing the same people to do this job who was already getting paid in the music industry 10 times as more than black executives. So this is really a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like, well, as much as people want to say this is an opportunity to create employment, this is an opportunity to, create employment within the AI industry. However, the AI industry is also participating in environmental racism and environmental damage, particularly to historically black communities in the South. So I don't really feel like this is a situation where you can, look at this from a, oh, well, he a businessman and he a black man. I don't really think that this makes sense because every part of this is damaging. And for somebody who already has a certain amount of money and has already made a certain amount of money, I just genuinely don't understand why he would need to do this. But whatever. And so lastly on music, I want to say rest in peace to D'Angelo. It has been announced today that he passed away at 51 years old. He also shares a son with Angie Stone, who recently passed away this year as well. So definitely want to say condolences to their son, their families. This is really, really sad because the wrong people are being hit. Like the wrong people are leaving. And our most talented people in the music industry are leaving. And so it's really frustrating, honestly, and it's really sad because, I just talked about two music artists who are bringing so much shame to not just the black community, but music industry in general. But then we have people like D'Angelo and Angie Stone and, Roberta Flack and people who have passed away just this year alone, whose legacies I hope to see preserved longer than people like Timbaland and Azealia Banks, right? Because we're losing people who actively did things to go against the music industry and people who actively did things to go against capitalism within the music industry as well. We're talking about people who actively declined and denied certain deals, certain executives, certain partnerships simply because they wanted to send out a message that they could not be bought, which is the foundation of neo soul music, right? It is that foundation is to be pro-black, to be anti-capitalism, to be anti-money over everything. In my opinion, that is the foundation of neo soul. It's not just about the sound, but it's also about the activism in the music. So that is really sad to hear about D'Angelo, and condolences to his family. So now we are out of music, and I want to talk about another story that I saw over the weekend. Um, a mass shooting happened in South Carolina, um, and this happened in the Gullah Geechee community in South Carolina. A white man opened fire at a neighborhood bar and killed 4 people, with 20 people injured. And this story was so alarming to me because I saw it on TikTok, and there was this white man, content creator, who talked about it. And what was so alarming to me about this was that I had probably been on TikTok for like a while. These past few days, I have been working on TikTok to try to get an audience and trying to see what's going on over there because I'm going to be doing some TikTok lives as well as YouTube lives. And so I've been in a lot of these different spaces with FBA, with African Americans, with people who are now calling themselves Sulan, with Creole people, with Gullah Geechee people, and a lot of these different spaces online are either talking about coming together or delineating from each other. And I just found it crazy that I listened to all of these different groups of people argue online for hours and hours and hours and hours, but nobody was talking about the fact that a Gullah Geechee community just experienced a mass shooting while all these people are online arguing. And this is clearly a hate crime, right? This is clearly something that is happening because of the current administration. This is clearly something that is happening because of anti-blackness and so many other things. But I just hope that communities like the Gullah Geechee Creole people out in Louisiana, I really hope that people stop taking what is happening right now lightly, and to literally arm yourselves, to literally militarize your communities the best way that you can, right? You know, because this is just going to keep happening. And it's really unfortunate because we have not even experienced a full year of this administration. And we are already seeing fatalities that are bringing record numbers, and it's increasing day by day. We're having mass shootings against corporations, but then we're having mass shootings against black communities, and no one's saying anything about it. And this FBA, these black Americans that are trying to delineate themselves from Africa, are also a part of the problem because we, as black people in this country, do not have the luxury to depend on media and sometimes independent media to tell our stories. And then we sit there and complain when we don't see our stories being told in the media, but then most of you do not do anything to support the media in telling those stories. So my thing is that if you can sit online and you can talk about whatever it is that you're talking about, you should be even more concerned about what's happening in your backyard, in your community, with people who look like you. So rest in peace to those people in the Gullah Geechee community who lost their lives. One of them was the security guard of that bar. Um, I am I'm so irritated with this situation. Seeing this really, really, really bothered me. If there's anybody from South Carolina from that particular community, please reach out any way possible. Send me an email. I will be also looking for you because I definitely want to hear what the Gullah Geechee community has to say, and I also want to show solidarity and unity with that community. So like I said, condolences to that. And so the last story that I want to talk about is Kyren Lacy's story. So back in December 2024, a LSU football player by the name of Kyren Lacy was in the news following his suicide, which left many people speculating why he did it. Apparently, Kyren was accused of being in a car crash days before his unaliving that involved an older woman driving the other car. At first, people thought that the other car that was involved in the car crash was a white woman, and apparently, this woman is not white.
He was nowhere near the accident when it happened. You can see his car literally be the last vehicle at the scene, and it just goes around him. When a witness told the officer that the person who caused the accident was the woman, the officer led the witness and told him, no, I need you to say that that Charger is the one who caused the accident. Because of this situation, Lacy's draft stock dropped. People were attacking his family and him on social media, saying that he took the life of a veteran. And due to an altercation that he got the night before court, he thought he was going to jail for life and just decided to go to the Lord. The officers and investigators that framed him for this incident and forgot that body cams exist, they need to be charged. They need to be in jail as well. Give them the same amount of time Lacy would have got. Rest in peace to him.
Before video footage came out, um, the the media put out a story by Louisiana Police Department saying that Kyren Lacy was involved in a car crash. And they made the audience believe that Kyren Lacy caused this car crash and killed somebody in this car crash. And video footage came out, and we literally see that Kyren Lacy's car was never crashed. It was never even a part of that particular incident. Not only did that information come out, um, but we also saw video footage from body cams from one of the LPD officers trying to persuade an innocent bystander in saying that Kyren was guilty. And we're still trying to figure out, how did this police officer even know who Kyren Lacy was? Because again, this is a Louisiana State University football player. This is a college student. This is not even a NFL player. So due to the police trying to frame Kyren as the blame for the homicide, I only assumed that the pressure that Kyren was getting scared him so much that he later unalived himself, allegedly by gunshot, before his attorney could prove his innocence. Recently, evidence come out confirming Kyren's innocence, but he is no longer here. Allegedly, the woman who crashed her car told police it was Kyren's fault, despite evidence now showing he was not even involved in the car crash, and his car did not even pass by the car crash until at least 15 to 30 seconds later after it happened. In one of the videos that came out, you can hear a witness say the collision was due to the woman driver, and the police officer constantly tries to manipulate the witness's language and tries to manipulate the witness into saying it was Kyren's fault. Kyren's attorney and family is now speaking out as he continues to follow this case. I'm going to share my thoughts after this because it's really irritating me. So, a few days ago, Ryan Clark of the Pivot podcast, he was on a sports show that he also works with, and he came out to talk about the fact that new video footage came out that shows Kyren Lacy's innocence. The next day, Ryan Clark comes out apologizing, saying that he shouldn't have spoke on it before evidence was confirmed, and it looked like he's now backstepping on what he was saying in support of Kyren Lacy. In his apology, he even says that he knew Kyren Lacy personally, and he felt that he needed to apologize based off of his passionate stance on it.
Use ways to manipulate statements that put this young man behind bars. They changed his joy, they changed his life, and eventually he took his own life. This was supposed to be a career, but at least he was supposed to be here. At some point throughout his career, I would expect to have said his name. So I'm going to say his name tonight.
Amen.
Kyren Lacy was innocent. Kyren Lacy should be here with us. Nothing will ever repair or replace the pain that their parents, that his parents have to feel and his loved ones have to feel. But we could say his name. There were so many stations that ran the fact that he was being invested.
And I'm very confused, right? Because a lot of this just feels like anybody who is speaking out against any type of atrocity, any type of hate crime, any type of blatant racism are being taken off of the air, just like with what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. They're being forced to apologize for sharing their position. And what really disappointed me about Ryan Clark is because Ryan Clark is very known for being one of the few voices in the NFL to speak about black issues since Colin Kaepernick, right? But to take it back, it almost makes me feel like either his job was threatened. And I'm also, again, I'm still very irritated with this concept because Ryan Clark, as well as with his peers, have their own show. So I'm not really sure why he even spoke on this situation on this national broadcast. I'm only assuming because it has a big audience, he felt like, this is the time to speak on that. But what's the point of speaking on something if you're going to apologize? And then who are you apologizing to? Right? Because are you apologizing to his family because you misspoke? Or are you apologizing to the network? Those are two different things. And from my understanding, he was apologizing to the network, which means that the network did not want him to speak on what he spoke on, which means that the network does not agree with what is going on with the Kyren Lacy case. That's my assumption, right? So Louisiana State University, I'm definitely keeping an eye on that situation because I'm not really understanding how Ryan Clark needed to apologize and why did he need to apologize to the network. I know that the footage that came out has not been tried in court. It has not necessarily been used in the court of law yet to say whether it was true footage or anything like that. I also am not sure if the footage that came out was leaked and was not supposed to come out, and maybe some of the information that came out was supposed to stay sealed. However, like, the information is already out, the video is already out, so rest in peace to Kyren Lacy. However, Kyren Lacy's story came out around the same time as Trey Reed's case came out. And Trey Reed was another HBCU student who was found hung from a tree literally a day or two later after Charlie Kirk's assassination or whatever. So these stories just, it feels very ritualistic. It feels very intentional. Anybody that studies white supremacy knows that these are tactics, right? College students, particularly from HBCUs, both being attacked within 72 hours of Charlie Kirk's situation. I mean, like, it really doesn't take rocket science. And at the end of the day, it's not a crime to call something a hate crime. It's clearly a hate crime. And that's just what it is. So there should not be an apology to ESPN or any network. However, Colin Kaepernick did what he did, and y'all still watch the NFL, which I don't understand. So we're just gonna leave it at that. But there will be no apologies coming from my side on anything, unless I misspeak or send out some type of information that isn't real. But I would never apologize to anybody but the family. But I would never apologize to a network or an institution. So, we will stay tuned on what's happening with that. Until next time.